Today, the Supreme Court gives the green light for Trump to resume mass layoffs of government workers. The president broadens the trade war, announcing big new tariffs on copper, and how some companies are bypassing China's ban on critical rare earths. It's Wednesday, July 9th. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes every weekday. I'm Kim Vanell in Wanganui, New Zealand. First, the headlines. The death toll from the floods in Texas has passed 100, with more than 180 people now declared missing. Many of those killed are children.
We're not happy with Putin. I'm not happy with Putin. I can tell you that much right now.
President Donald Trump showing his frustration with Russia's President Vladimir Putin as he approves the shipment of more defensive weapons to Ukraine. Trump also says he's considering additional sanctions on Moscow. The Supreme Court has ruled the Trump administration can restart its mass layoffs of government employees. The decision could lead to tens of thousands of job cuts and consolidates Trump's power as president. Tim Reid is our national affairs correspondent.
While they did not say whether or not the mass firings of government workers was actually legal, they skipped that question. They still are allowing Trump to proceed.
How does this affect the president's attempts to expand or cement his authority?
This is very much a part of that. And just in the last week or so, Trump has been helped by the Supreme Court in several rulings which have essentially expanded the power of the executive branch, the power of the presidency. There was another ruling a few days ago when the Supreme Court said that lower court judges, district court judges, for example, who until now, if they ruled move by Trump to be unconstitutional in their jurisdiction, they could impose an entire injunction on a Trump policy for the whole country. That's now come to an end. So Trump has had a very good week in terms of expanding his power and consolidating the power of the presidency.
President Trump is broadening his trade war, announcing a huge new tariff on a crucial imported metal.
What would that tariff be? I believe the tariff on copper, we're going to make it 50%.
Copper is used for everything from electric vehicles to military hardware to many consumer goods. But anything being imported into the US will face a 50% levy. All this just a few weeks out from his self-imposed trade deal deadline. Lewis Jackson is in Beijing. Lewis, what does this mean for consumers?
So it's a massive deal. Copper is in everything. The wiring in your house, in your phone, in your blender, in your car. It's enormous. And this is just going to push up costs for people who use copper in the United States. The US imports roughly half the copper it uses. So if you are a manufacturer who uses copper and you get it from overseas, well, you're looking at much higher prices now. And that's a big deal because the manufacturing renaissance that this US administration wants to spark will rely on copper. And they've just put a 50% tariff on it. Now, it's important to note that there are copper producers in the United States who, for them, this is great news. They've got the production there. They can sell into the US market where prices are going to be higher. But the reality is there's lots of copper the US needs, and it takes a long time to set up the mines, build the smelters, get that entire copper supply chain shifted to the US. It will take years.
While the world's copper exporters are in wait-and-see mode after Trump's tariff bombshell, US importers of some critical minerals have found a trade war loophole. Reuters is exclusively reporting how US companies are bypassing China's ban on some of those mineral exports, specifically antimony and gallium, which are crucial for semiconductors and military technology. These minerals are going via third countries to get to the US, sometimes at record levels. Lewis Jackson also worked on this story and tells us China has launched a campaign against these moves, citing threats to national security. Alessandro Parodi worked with him on the story.
Sports Beat with Freddie Coleman.
In a White House website called The Trump Effect that lists investments made during the president's second term. Our White House reporter, Jared Renshaw, has been looking into the claims.
Trump was saying that he attracted $14 trillion worth of investment, which is about half of the nation's GDP. So you start with that premise and you start looking, well, how does he come up with these 14 trillion? And what we found is that there's about 70 or so projects on the list, totaling something around $2.6 trillion, which is well short of the 14 trillion. So we looked at those projects. And what we found was there was about half of the spending, $1.3 trillion, either originated prior to his coming to office, or in cases like Apple and Eli Lilly, were just typical spending. These companies are huge companies, spend a lot of money in U.S. investments, and they just repackage those investments to highlight their domestic spending and caught the attention of the White House, added to the list. With really no evidence that Trump inspired the spending, and Trump's taking credit for projects within 3 months of taking office. You can't find any piece of evidence that Trump had anything to do with those projects.
The White House says the final investment decisions on these projects were announced under his watch and prove his economic policies are triggering US investment. Liverpool Football Club's Diogo Jota was probably speeding when he crashed his Lamborghini in northwestern Spain, killing him and his brother, police say. The forensics team is analysing the marks left by one of the car's wheels on the asphalt that suggest a blown tyre. Spanish authorities are ordering more than 18,000 residents in parts of Catalonia to remain indoors as a wildfire rages out of control, consuming more than 7,000 acres. Several dozen residents were evacuated, and large parts of Spain are on high alert after the country experienced its hottest June on record. And for today's recommended read, a Reuters exclusive. Finland and Lithuania look set to start producing anti-personnel landmines. They follow Ukraine in planning to pull out of the Ottawa Convention, which bans the use of mines. Their move comes because of what they see as the threat from Russia. There's a link to that story in today's pod description. For more on any of the stories from today, check out Reuters.com or the Reuters app. Don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast player. We'll be back tomorrow with our daily headline show.
Flash floods claim more lives. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. Devastation hits Ruidoso, Mexico again. A monsoon downpour triggered savage flash floods yesterday in areas scarred by wildfires last year. And the town confirms a father and 2 children died as they were swept downstream in the violent waters.
It's hard to imagine the power of water, and I know you've seen it here before.
Mayor Lynn Crawford said in a statement, in his words, "Our hearts are broken for the families who have lost their loved ones in this terrible tragedy." Emergency crews made more than 80 swiftwater rescues. And in the catastrophic Texas flooding, the search continues for victims, with 161 people reported missing and 109 confirmed dead. First responders and volunteers have fanned out looking for any sign of life, or worse. Governor Greg Abbott.
We have to find every single person who's missing.
Speaking in Hunt, saying he spoke with President Trump again, who has pledged to provide whatever relief is needed.
The President's program has people here on the ground today that are working to get people registered through our websites.
W. Nimkid, chief of the Texas Division of Emergency Management, detailing FEMA's Individual Assistance Program. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Fox Corporation has made a donation to the Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country's Kerr County Flood Relief Fund, and here's how you can help. Visit go.fox/TX Flood Relief. And the Supreme Court rules President Trump can go ahead with his efforts to downsize the federal government through mass firings.
An unsigned order says the lower court's injunction inflicts severe harm on the government and interferes with the executive branch's internal operations and unquestioned legal authority to carry out a government-wide reduction in force.
Fox's Jared Halpern. America's listening to Fox News.
It's the Will Kane Show. Watch it live at noon Eastern, Monday through Thursday on FoxNews.com or on the Fox News YouTube channel. And don't miss a show. Get the podcast 5 days a week at FoxNewsPodcasts.com or wherever you download your favorite podcasts.
8 cities and the county of Los Angeles are joining a lawsuit against the Trump administration to stop what they consider are unconstitutional immigration tactics and arrests.
LA City Attorney Heidi Feldstein-Soto, Mayor Karen Bass, and other local mayors say they've had enough of what they call reckless discriminatory tactics by ICE and Border Patrol. LA and surrounding cities are now joining an ACLU lawsuit, not to end immigration raids, but to stop what they call dangerous and unlawful methods used by federal agents. City Attorney Feldstein-Soto strongly criticized the federal immigration operation at MacArthur Park, calling it a deliberate show of force intended to intimidate residents. Now it's up to the courts to decide if the raids have gone too far. Reporting from downtown Los Angeles, I'm Gina Silva, Fox News.
Justice Department sources tell Fox News Digital the DOJ is investigating former CIA Director John Brennan and former FBI Director James Comey for potential wrongdoing related to the Trump-Russia probe, including allegedly making false statements to Congress. Nearly 2 months after 10 inmates escaped from a New Orleans jail by crawling through a hole behind a toilet, police have recaptured all but the man with the most violent rap sheet.
3 of the fugitive inmates were nabbed within 24 hours of the May 16th jailbreak. Most of the others were recaptured in the next 3 weeks. But one of them, Derek Groves, remains elusive. The 28-year-old was convicted of killing 2 people after opening fire on a family block party with an assault rifle. He faces life in prison if they can find him. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
And I'm Carmen Roberts, and this is Fox News.
I'm Janice Dean. Join me every Sunday as This Tech Check briefing is sponsored by Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
I'm Julia Borston, and this is your CNBC Tech Check briefing. AI hyperscaler CoreWeave announcing it will acquire Core Scientific, a leading data center infrastructure provider, in an all-stock deal valued at about $9 billion. Shares of CoreWeave are down about 4%, while Core Scientific is sinking nearly 20% on the news. CoreWeave CEO Michael Intrater saying the deal will eliminate $10 billion in future lease obligations and enhance operating efficiency. Apple is appealing a €500 million fine issued by the European Union for violating the Digital Markets Act. The company saying in a statement, quote, as our appeal will show, the European Commission is mandating how we run our store, enforcing business terms which are confusing for developers and bad for users. The EU fined Apple back in April, saying the company breached its anti-steering obligation, which requires Apple and Google to inform users of payment options outside of their platform. Shares of Tesla are falling about 8% after CEO Elon Musk announced plans to form a new political party. Musk saying over the weekend that the party would be called the America Party and would focus on 2 or 3 Senate seats and up to 10 House districts. Musk's re-involvement in politics is making investors nervous again. The Tesla CEO left Doge back in May, which helped boost the stock. That's all for today. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
This Tech Check briefing is sponsored by Comcast Business. With leading networking and connectivity, advanced cybersecurity, and expert partnership, Comcast Business helps turn today's enterprises into engines of...
This is DW News. These are our top stories. The U.S. Middle East Special Envoy says that a deal for a 60-day truce in Gaza could be reached by the end of this week. Steve Witkoff made the comments at a cabinet meeting after President Donald Trump hosted